And I can tell you exactly where it comes from if you want to get into it.
Yeah.
It's going to piss off a lot of people in your audience, and they're not going to probably like this episode. Just going to give you that warning.
Hey, let's hear it.
When you're driven, the need to accomplish a goal is relentless. Hard work and ambition compel you to do whatever's necessary. In my work as a personal injury trial lawyer for 18 years, it's common to meet driven people. Those with drive can have different personalities, careers, or backgrounds, but they possess one common factor. Despite their passions, driven people want to surround and motivate themselves with other driven people. If you want to learn how to overcome obstacles by learning from others, then tune in here. This is the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into episode 59 of the Driven Crowd Podcast, fueled by Snellings Law. I'm your host, Scott Snellings. Today we have RJon Robbins, co-founder and president of How to Manage a Small Law Firm, which helps to manage more than 500 of the fastest growing and most profitable law firms in and around the United States. How to Manage a Small Law Firm helps its entrepreneurs build businesses that work for them instead of the other way around. RJon practices what he preaches, often working from his boat in sunny South Florida, except for right now, we're in the middle of a hurricane in South Florida, when he's not investing time with his wife and their son. RJon, welcome to the Driven Crowd Podcast, my friend.
Thanks for having me here, and congratulations on 59 episodes. That's no small feat.
As you well know, right? As you well know, it is getting guests and getting really good and interesting guests has proven way more of a challenge than I thought. I'm super proud of the guests that we've had, but our team is constantly looking for a really good guest to give our listeners a good listen. So right now, you're in the middle of a hurricane.
I just got to give you a plug and say, as a guest, I get invited to a lot of podcasts, and my team conducts due diligence to make sure that I'm not going to waste my time on a podcast that I wouldn't necessarily want to be associated with.
Right.
And so I will tell you that finding good podcasts to be a guest on is also a challenge. So thank you for having a great podcast.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. So right now you're sitting in Florida and we have a big hurricane going on. So is everything good on the home front for you?
Oh, yeah. I did nothing to prepare for this hurricane except I took the canvas off the boat, and that was it, because I could see the storm tracker, because I believe in actually looking at data, and I could see from the data that it wasn't going to impact us. So I did almost nothing to prepare.
All right. So you are a massive data guy. So let's start for you. You have a very interesting backstory. So start there. You were growing up, and tell us kind of where and how you grew up and lead us through your backstory.
Oh, man.
And I'm going to jump in with questions and interrupt you.
Yeah, give me a little direction here, because I could tell you anything. I could tell you about, the time when.
Right. So you grew up and you had some traumatic things happen within your family in terms of money.
Oh yeah, you're going to have to narrow down the trauma a little bit deeper, a little bit more narrowly, because I got hours of trauma stories to tell you. Fortunately, nothing ever physical or anything like that. But I grew up in a family that things were pretty chaotic. Things were pretty unpredictable. There was never any physical abuse. There was never any violence, thankfully. But there was a lot of housing instability. There was, you just never knew what was going to be around the corner. One day we're living in a beautiful mansion. The next day we're packing everything up to move into a very small house. The next day we're back in a big mansion. The next day back in a small house. I mean, literally, not literally day by day, but you just never knew what was going to happen. And so one of my guiding principles for what we do for the law firms that we manage is we want to bring stability and predictability to the cash flow and to the profitability, which is very, very doable if you know how to run the business of a law firm the right way. And since you have a PI firm, personal injury firm, I'll just say this to all the contingency lawyers out there: contingency personal injury law firms are some of the easiest law firms to predict cash flow and predict profitability in, if you know what to look for.
And so it sounds like that those experiences of constantly having that housing instability, of not knowing if you were going to be living in the big house or the tiny house from year to year, significantly shaped who you are today. Am I right on that?
Yeah, I mean, everything that we are all as functional adults and semi-functional adults is impacted by our world experience growing up. There's a reason why personal injury lawyers do personal injury. There's a reason why immigration lawyers do immigration. There's a reason why bankruptcy lawyers dedicate their life to bankruptcy. And I could go through all the different practice areas.
Right.
And then even within the practice areas, there's a reason why personal injury lawyer, why this personal injury law firm handles personal injury cases one way, whereas another personal injury law firm handles personal injury cases another way, or goes after a particular target, because our businesses are ultimately an expression of who we are. And if you really go back to the root of who a person is, you're going to see that showing up in their business for better and for worse.
And so using those experiences, obviously you wanted to grow up and say, all right, I am not going to endure this chaos. So how did you get into helping businesses?
No, the opposite.
Oh,
See,
all right.
That became normal to me.
Oh.
This is the big problem we have we manage over 500 law firms, some of the most successful law firms, every different practice area all over the country. And one of the big problems that we've got when we first start working with a law firm owner is we have to help them understand that what they consider to be normal isn't normal, or doesn't have to be normal, right? So we become accustomed to chaos, and so chaos becomes normal, and so we tolerate chaos, right? So most people think that standards, that goals, they want to go after goals, and let's set goals, and let's set big goals. Goals don't matter. Goals are interesting. What really makes a difference in the day-to-day of your life, what really is going to make a difference in the quality of life that your children are going to enjoy, aren't your goals. Your goals are the aspirations. It's your standards. It's what will you tolerate, right? If you'll tolerate, you show me the worst thing going on in your business, you show me the worst thing going on in your life, and that will tell me what your standards are, because you'll tolerate it. Because if you weren't going to tolerate it, you wouldn't stand for it anymore. You'd change it. You'd make it better. So, in my life, I grew up with financial chaos. Financial chaos was normal to me. I learned to tolerate financial chaos. I had to retrain myself to learn and discover how much better life can be, and that there's a different way that a person can live, which is with financial predictability, profitable cash flow, profitable, predictable cash flow, things like that. Are you getting what I'm saying here?
Absolutely. And so when you start working with a business owner, whether it be a law firm or any business owner that came to you and said, RJon, I need some help, how do you help them identify what chaos they're living with, or where their minimum standards are? Because as you just said, if you become accustomed to it, it may seem completely normal.
Well, I mean, you just look at what's going on in their business. So look, there's 7 main parts of every successful law firm. And you said any other kind of a business, but like 99% of what I do is just law firms. To the extent that I work with businesses that are not law firms, it's like a friend or family or a favor that someone's asked me to help someone with.
Gotcha.
Or maybe one of the law firm owners who we work with has a spouse or significant other who has a business who needs some help. But I'm just going to limit my comments to law firms, because that's the world I've lived in since 1999. All I've done since 1999 is build the businesses of successful law firms. So how do you know? It's obvious. You look, I mean, you look at the financials, right? First off, do they have financials, right?
Great first question.
What's that? You don't have any financials, right? I mean, I want you to imagine driving your car with the windshield completely blocked out and you can't see what's coming. Yeah?
Yeah, not going to end well.
Well, that's what it's like. Listen, people can do it, right? I remember when I was in college, I was driving with a friend, and he had this old Cadillac. I remember this giant old Cadillac that I think his grandfather gave him or something. And we were up in Boston, and it was snowing, and the windshield wiper wasn't working, and we couldn't see out of the windshield. So he was driving with his head out the window to see where we were going. Well, we were going very slow. We were down a little side street. And, if you're going very, very slow and you're not planning to go very far and you're not planning to accomplish much in your life, you can get away with running a law firm without financials. But you get someone who tells me that they're optimistic and ambitious and they're driven, to use your nomenclature, and they're running a business without financials. I know that they're not used to being held accountable or saying things that actually make sense. Or I know their law firm and their life is just complete chaos. That's step one. Step two, let's look at the financials. Are the financials crap, right? Step three, let's look at your job descriptions. Do you have job descriptions for your staff? If you don't have job descriptions for your staff, then I know that you tolerate a lot of BS in your business, because you couldn't not have BS going on in your business without job descriptions. And if you've been running your law firm for a number of years without job descriptions, that means that is your standard. You've got low standards for the performance of your staff. And there's a lot of reasons why you might have low standards for the performance of your staff. Maybe you've got low standards for the performance of your staff because you're intimidated being surrounded by superstars. Maybe you have low standards for the performance of your staff because you like to be the smartest person in the room. Maybe so you surround yourself by dodo heads, or you hire smart people and then you cripple them by not giving them clear job descriptions and key performance indicators. Or maybe you've got low standards when it comes to the performance of your staff because your ego is built that you like to be the knight in shining armor who comes riding to the rescue all the time. Or maybe you're just fueled by adrenaline and you like the adrenaline rush of having to come to the rescue all the time. The point I'm making is, if I see that there is no financial controls, that tells me a lot about what's going on in the inner world of the owner of that law firm. If I see, and I mean, we manage over 500 law firms. Obviously, I have a team. I have over 100 employees, just so you get some context, right?
Gotcha.
I practice what I preach. If we see that when we take on a new member or a new law firm, which is by application only, by the way, we're looking at the application and we're looking, is there a business plan? Is there a marketing plan? Is there a sales strategy? Are there written job descriptions? Are there any financial controls? And if there isn't, not that we won't take them on as a member, but we know where we need to start working. And where we need to start working is on the mindset of the person who thinks that's okay.
Well, and I think that's a huge, huge point, right? Because those of us who go to law school, typically, I mean, maybe you have a business background. Most of us don't. I mean, my best friends in law school, one guy was a physics major, another was a communications major. I was a psychology major. None of us had ever stepped foot in the business school. And we certainly didn't learn much in law school in terms of how to run a business. And so I think there's this mindset. You get out there, you start a law firm, and you got to figure it out. And if you don't get help, you're not going to figure it out very fast, and you're not going to figure it out very well. And so when you first look at those financials, it sounds like that's kind of one of the very first things you look at for a law firm. What are you looking for? Are you looking to see do you have QuickBooks? Are you classifying your expenses? Do you have your revenue broken down? What exactly is it that you're looking at in those financials?
All right, so this is what I'm looking for. First off, I'm asking, do you have a written business plan? Okay. Step number one, do you have a written business plan, right? So one of the things you and I talked about before I agreed to be on the podcast is, we both agree that your clients depend on you to run the business well, right?
Absolutely.
When you run your business badly, the clients end up paying the price. Yeah.
Totally agree.
So, all things being equal, two different personal injury lawyers. One is like the greatest personal injury lawyer in the world, and the other is a very good personal injury lawyer. The greatest personal injury lawyer in the world, who has no financial controls, whose cash flow is up and down, up and down, up and down, who's got no written job descriptions, whose staff is running amok, right? Who's just, their whole business is in chaos. I'm not going to hire that personal injury lawyer, even though that person might be the best litigator, best trial personal injury lawyer in the world, because I know that the results I'm going to get from that personal injury law firm are going to be the luck of the draw. I'd much rather hire the person who's very good, who has a written business plan, which they can use to get and keep their whole team on the same page. the personal injury lawyer who has the marketing plan. So they have consistency of prospective new clients coming in. So they're not desperate to grab the next client that walks in the door. I'm looking for the law firm that has systematic processes for converting prospective clients into paying clients, so they don't inadvertently take the wrong cases from the wrong clients. I'm looking for the law firm that has a business plan that has job descriptions and key performance indicators and objective ways of tracking and measuring the performance of the staff, so that the staff knows how they're doing and there isn't an office full of drama.
Right.
I'm looking for the law firm that has financial controls so that the owner's head is in the game and not worrying about how they're going to pay the mortgage next month. I can take you through exactly how to tell whether it's a law firm that I want to work with or not.
Sure.
Or my team wants to work with or not. And we fix all these problems. So it's not like they got to come into it pristine. But you want to know what to look for. That's what you're looking for.
And to pile on a little bit here, whenever you have all of those things in place, you have a team who knows what their job is, knows how they're performing, and knows that there's not going to be that specific chaos because we have all of these systems and processes in place. You have a really happy team, and happy team members perform great at their jobs. And when you have great performing team members, then it's not just relying on that one incredibly good trial attorney. It is relying on the system as a whole, and you have all of these different people helping out to get that one case from the beginning all the way through the finish line and get a great result for a client.
Our tagline at How to Manage is happy lawyers make more money. And it's true. Happy lawyers make more money. And it's not that you make a bunch of money and then one day you wake up and you're happy. You run your business in a way that makes you happy. You run your business in a way that gives people the opportunity to have good jobs with good career paths and a great income and upward mobility. You run your business the right way. The business has a better, more positive impact in the local community, which I know is an important thing for your law firm.
Absolutely.
And I really respect that. And as a byproduct of that, the law firm becomes more profitable and you make more money. Most struggling law firm owners have this completely backwards around. They think, I'm going to suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer, and one day I'll make a certain magical amount of money, and then I'll be happy. And that's not the way it works. I mean, my business last year grossed over $30 million in revenue. It didn't gross $30 million in revenue, and then one day I woke up happy. I started when the business was less than $1 million in revenue. I started doing things the right way. I started doing things in ways that make me happy, that give me a great life. And the business grows as a result of that.
All right. So you mentioned looking at the financials. You mentioned looking at the business plan. What's the next thing that you're looking at?
Well, I mentioned the things within the business plan, right? So The business plan is the umbrella conversation.
I gotcha.
Right?
I gotcha.
Do you have a business plan or not? Right. So one of the things we talked about before the show is you have a business and you have a profession, right? Your business is in the business of marketing, selling, delivering, and getting paid for legal services. That's the business. The job of the lawyer is to perform the legal services, right? So, the question that I've gone around the country for decades now at this point, asking thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of lawyers is, what's the business of a law firm? And most lawyers confuse the job of the lawyer, which is to perform legal services and to defend people's rights and to stand up for clients and all of that. They confuse the job of the lawyer with the business of the law firm. And so I use a restaurant analogy, right? So what's the job of the chef? The job of the chef is to cook great food. That's not the business of the restaurant, though, right? And then the question then becomes, would you ever want to invest your own money, or would you ever want to let one of your clients or friends or family invest their money in a restaurant being run by the world's greatest chef? Everyone loves this person's cooking, but the restaurant is a total you-know-what show.
Right.
Total beep show, right? No, why not? And the answer is because you know that even the world's greatest chef can't overcome operational chaos.
Mm.
So so it's like, do you take your business seriously, right? And a lot, I mean, most of the law firms that we work with, when they start working with us, their answer is no. And we have to turn them around and change how they think about their relationship with their law firm, right? So first question is, do you have a business plan? Yes or no? Second question, why don't you have a business plan? Now, if the reason why I don't have a business plan is because no one ever taught me how to do it and I want to learn, okay, great. But if the reason is I don't have a business plan because this isn't a business, this is the practice of law, I got to give them some homework to do. Look, we have a waiting list. We've had a waiting list for new members for the better part of 2 years. We give prospective new members who we talk to so many free resources and free courses and free books to read, and they can come live to workshops that we do for free and Zoom workshops that we do for free, just to get them into the right headspace to be able to get the amazing results that we get. So it's really, how are they thinking about their relationship with the law firm is really the most important question we've got. And do you have a business plan? Do you have a marketing plan? Do you have a sales plan? Do you know your cost of goods sold? Do you know your margins? Those are just kind of like sub questions.
All right. So you mentioned the mindset, and I think a lot of professionals, not just lawyers, suffer from this. They hold themselves out as, I'm a lawyer, and the business stuff is beneath me. I'm sure you deal with that loss or that mindset all the time with lawyers. What are some things that you talk to them about to help them overcome that?
Reality. We talk about reality. We talk about, I think we talked earlier, you've got kids, I've got kids, right?
Right.
Remember when your children were very, very, very little infants and they didn't make a distinction between themselves and the mom?
Right.
Little babies, like they go through this period where they don't really understand that they and their mother are two different entities.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is what we experience a lot with lawyers. There's a lot of entrepreneurial immaturity, and that's not to be critical or to be a jerk. It's just the reality of the situation, right? Because if you never studied marketing, you never studied sales, you never studied how to hire, train, manage, make a profit with staff, you never studied financial controls, how are you possibly supposed to know this stuff, right? I wouldn't even begin to know where. I mean, I'm an attorney. I've had my law license for 20 plus years. I work with some of the smartest, most sophisticated, most successful law firm owners on the planet. And I wouldn't have a clue where to begin a personal injury case. Why? Because I didn't study personal injury law. I didn't study that area of the law. I wouldn't know where to begin in immigration matter. I wouldn't know where to begin in intellect. You get what I'm saying here?
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
there's this idea that because I'm a lawyer, I should somehow magically know about the business of running a law firm. And I can tell you exactly where it comes from if you want to get into it.
Yeah.
It's going to piss off a lot of people in your audience, and they're not going to probably like this episode. Just going to give you that warning.
Hey, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Okay. So, in law school, we are taught implicitly, if not explicitly, that we should take pride in how much we suffer. We should take pride in how much we sacrifice. We should take pride in how much we can endure. It's like a giant freaking ego fest in law school about who is tougher because they can take more shit. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that carries into the business of running a law firm. And then you get a job working for a big law firm, and the big law firm sees you as an hour donkey. They don't see you as a professional. They don't see you as a person. They see you as a donkey. How many hours can this donkey bill for us per year? Now, of course, they don't say that when they're recruiting you. They blow all kinds of, up your butt,
right,
and whisper all kinds of sweet nothings in your ear. But behind closed doors, in the big law firm, they're just thinking, how many hours can I get out of this person to maximize my ROI? And so the law firms perpetuate this ego-driven fest, this ego fest of who can outdo the other in terms of billable hours and enduring more. And there's this idea, there's this doctrine of sacrifice that is taught and instilled in the legal industry. And I've been talking about the doctrine of sacrifice since 1999 when I first got to the Florida bar at the Law Office Management Assistant Service, which is where I got my start doing this, which is why there's no one alive today who's worked with more lawyers and more law firms than me in the business of running a law firm. And all of my mentors who had more experience than me, unfortunately, they're all dead. So I'm left, right? And the point I'm making is that there's this doctrine of sacrifice that teaches us that we should take pride in how much we suffer. We should take pride in how much we sacrifice. That's problem number one. Got it?
Got it.
Problem number two. Lawyers go around with this idea, which is taught to us in law school, that there's these magic law firm management elves who will come in and reward you for being a good lawyer. And they'll reward you by taking care of the practical realities of running the business of the law firm. So you're in law school and you say, hey, I want to learn more about the business of running a law firm. And a law school professor who doesn't know anything about the business of running a law firm, instead of having the courage to say, hey, you know what? That's a great question, but I don't know the answer.
Right.
Instead, they give you this line of BS and they say, just be a good lawyer and everything else will take care of itself, right? And so now you're sitting at some bar function with a bunch of struggling law firm owners whose law firms are ruining their lives and screwing their clients in the process because their business is running like crap. And no one wants to admit that they're having a problem with bookkeeping. No one wants to admit that they're having a problem with financial controls. No one wants to admit that they're having a problem with job descriptions and key performance indicators and a bunch of practical business management stuff, because to admit that you're having a problem with the business of running a law firm is tantamount to saying, I'm not a good enough lawyer. Because if I was a good enough lawyer, we all know the magic law firm management elves would be rewarding me with prosperity. So what everyone does is they lie. They lie and they lie and they lie. They go to bar functions and they lie to each other. And these lawyers are naively believing the lies that are being told by all their other struggling law firm owners at the bar function, right? So Andy Apple lies and says, oh, everything's great. I get all my business by way of referral. What kind of freaking idiot are you that you settle for getting all your business by way of referral? And then Betty Banana says, oh, yeah, my clients are great, even though maybe she's struggling with some not so great clients. And then Carl, Cantaloupe comes along and says, oh, yeah, I've got, consistent, predictable cash. They're lying to each other because they don't want to admit the reality that no one ever taught them about the business of running a law firm. So they never bothered to sit down and write out a business plan, and they have no marketing plan, and they've got no financial controls in place. They've got no key performance indicators. They've got no job descriptions, because to admit that they're having a problem is the same thing as saying, I'm not a good enough lawyer, which of course is ridiculous. So here we are, all these years later, and these lawyers who have never learned about how to manage the business of their law firm have told everyone around them all of these stories and all these excuses, and they've enrolled their family in all their BS. They've lied to their family, right? And now they have to face some very uncomfortable truths, right? And they have to go to their family and they have to say, hey, let's pretend like we're family. Hey, Scott, I've got some good news for you and some bad news for you. What would you like to hear first?
Always the bad.
The bad news is that, all those vacations we couldn't take? All those grades that our kids went to a crappy school instead of going to the private school we really wanted them to go to?
Mm-hmm.
Remember all those hours you spent on your hands and knees scrubbing our toilets, and we spent doing our own laundry, and we spent struggling and scrimping and sacrificing and losing sleep over cash flow, and we didn't know where the next paycheck was going to, or where the next mortgage payment was going to come from.
Yep.
The bad news is none of that was necessary.
Mm.
The good news is I can turn it all around like that just by how I manage the business of my law firm. But instead what happens is lawyer A says to their spouse or significant other, hey, honey, we have to struggle, we have to sacrifice, we have to do without, right? Because this is what good, honest lawyers do who care about their clients. And that lawyer's spouse or significant other says, really? That doesn't seem to make any logical sense to me at all. And the lawyer says, well, I wouldn't expect you to know, honey, because after all, you didn't go to law school. So how could you possibly know anything about the business of running a law firm? And the spouse says, still, I'm an intelligent person, and what you're saying just doesn't seem like it makes any sense at all. And the lawyer says, really? Well, I'll prove it to you. And the lawyer brings their spouse or significant other together with the spouses and significant others of a bunch of their friends who are also running struggling law firms. And the lawyers take turns justifying and backing up each other's BS stories and excuses and enrolling their spouses and significant others in these lies.
Yeah, I see it. I see it. And I have seen it, right? So as a law firm owner, we run into a bunch of other law firm owners in our communities, at bar events, things like that. And I have yet to hear anybody say, man, it has been a rough year. This year has been a rough year because of X, Y, or Z. Yet, when you get into a mastermind group, when you get into a group like How to Manage a Small Law Firm, the vulnerability all of a sudden is there. And as soon as one person says, guys, this has been a rough year, I've been struggling with X, it's like the walls come crumbling down and everybody has the freedom to talk about what's going on. Once they get that out, then you can start solving some problems. So tell me about How to Manage. How do you guys get to that point with all of these lawyers that you're managing law firms?
Yeah, so like I said, we manage over 500 law firms around the country. It's not just me. I've got an amazing team of people who work with me. First off, we are very clear that we are a personal development business, right? We do personal development for entrepreneurs who happen to own law firms.
Right.
Got it?
Got it.
Because personal development precedes professional development. If we don't change how a person thinks about what they're thinking about, we can't do them any good, right? So we can put the most brilliant, low cost, no cost, low tech, no tech, $1 million marketing machine in place for a law firm, which, by the way, you don't need to have a bunch of money to build $1 million marketing machine for a law firm. You can build $1 million marketing machine for any practice area with very little money and virtually no technology. Very simple to do. We can put together an intake and sales conversion system that is very, very effective, that's very, very reliable, that doesn't cost a bunch of money, that starts making a profit for you like almost right away. We can help you think through and document processes and policies and systems, procedures, so we can choreograph how the business is supposed to function so that we can hire, train, manage great employees and hold them accountable to objective standards and objective criteria. And then we can be really brutal and ruthless on the problem without being without being abusive to the people.
Right.
You get the distinction there.
Absolutely.
We can put really great financial controls in place. This is pretty simple to do. Law firms are very simple businesses to run. They really are. But if we don't change the way that the owner of the law firm thinks about their relationship with the law firm, this is all for nothing. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Because they're just going to revert back to their old ways the minute we walk out the door, right? Which is why we are not consultants. We are not coaches. We are not teachers. We are not trainers. How to manage a small law firm, we come in and we become part of your org chart, We are the CEO of your business. Every business needs a CEO. Every business needs a COO. Every business needs a CFO. Every business needs someone to function in this role. And, big law firms have a full-time CEO. Big law firms have a full-time COO, CFO, CMO. The problem is if your revenues are, under about $1.5 million or $2 million in revenue, you probably are not going to realistically be able to afford a full-time professional legal administrator.
Right.
But until you get a full-time professional legal administrator to help you run your business, your law firm's probably never going to get to $2 million. So it's a catch-22, right? Until your revenues get to about $5 million, you're probably not going to be able to afford a full-time, qualified, experienced chief financial officer. But until you get the help from a chief financial officer, chances are you're probably not going to get to $5 million. Or if you do get to $5 million, you're going to hit it and bounce back down.
Right.
So how to manage a small law firm, we bridge the gap. We provide fractional timeshare CEO, COO, CFO solutions for fast-growing law firm owners. And like I said to you earlier, we have a waiting list. We've had a waiting list for more than 2 years. I'm not here trying to pitch it or offer it. In fact, usually what I'm trying to get people to do is to come to a free workshop or sign up for a free webinar or sign up for a free 12-week crash course or sign up. Let me give you a bunch of free stuff to help you start making some progress, mostly so you can begin to experience the reality that could become the new normal for you. And then, people make the obvious decision whether they want to work with us or not.
Awesome. I love it, RJon. Thank you so much. We are out of time, but I do have one final question for you.
Yeah.
Give me your top 3 books. Can be fiction, nonfiction, you name it.
You needed to prepare me for that question because if you were doing this, I have more than 300 linear feet of bookshelf in my home, just to give you an idea. So you're asking me my top 3 favorite books.
And you can pick books that have had a big influence on you. If that makes it easier.
I know it's a long list, and I'm just let me think. All
right, I am constantly getting in trouble because new books are showing up at my house, and my wife is like, "Seriously, where are we going to put all of these?" I have them stacked in different corners. The bookshelves are full. They've been full for a long time. Now they're being sent to the office. I don't have any more bookshelf space at the office. So I share your quandary.
We moved into a new home, and we were measuring our old home. And we measured 300 linear feet that we needed to build. And so we built, I think, probably 500 linear feet. Carly would know better than me just to accommodate the growth. But okay, so here's a few books. The Power of 10.
Okay.
These are books. Okay, these are books that we give our new members. When a person becomes a member of How to Manage a Small Law Firm, we give them these books. These are the books we also give to our brand new employees as part of their training and onboarding. We give them The Power of 10. So you got to read The Power of 10.
Okay.
The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. You have to read The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Great book.
And Profit First by Mike Michalowicz.
Great book.
Power of 10, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and Profit First. And I wrote a book called Profit First for Lawyers. Mike Michalowicz asked me to write that book. And we even have a podcast called Profit First for Lawyers. So those would be, you put me on the spot, those would be the 3 books that come to mind.
You did quite well, RJon. Thank you so much for your time. I know you are a super busy man, so we really appreciate you coming on the show today. And thank you to everyone who tuned in to another episode of the Driven Crowd Podcast. We'll see you next time.